Welcome to our channel. We are happy to have you here with us. This space was created with great care to share incredible and enriching content with you. We want you to feel comfortable and enjoy each video that we prepare with dedication and love. To help us grow and continue producing quality content, we ask that you subscribe to the channel. God bless. Now let's get to the video. Ezekiel means God will strengthen or God will prevail. Like Jeremiah, he was both a priest and a prophet. He was part of the large group of captives taken to Babylon by Nebuchadnezzar in 597 BC, 10 years before the destruction of Jerusalem. These captives were distributed in several settlements throughout Babylon, forming small communities with some organization and freedom of worship. About 5 years later, at the age of 30 and still in captivity, God called Ezekiel to be a prophet. 6 years before the destruction of Jerusalem, his prophecies continued for 16 years after the fall of Jerusalem, covering a period of about 22 years. In today's video, we will explore the story of the prophet Ezekiel and his prophecies. Peace and grace, beloved. I ask for all of your help to subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell. If you liked the video, leave a like, which helps me a lot to produce more videos. Without further ado, let's get to the video. Ezekiel's message. Ezekiel's main mission was to act as a watchman in the name of God. His message was addressed to Jerusalem and Judah, mentioned 23 times in the first 24 chapters. Interestingly, the phrase House of Israel appears in 78 verses of the book, while House of Judah is found only 5 times. Many people assume that these terms refer to the same group of people, but this is not the case. All Jews are Israelites, but not all Israelites are Jews. The 10 tribes of the House of Israel had been taken captive to Assyria about 130 years earlier, but the House of Judah remained. At times, Ezekiel used the term House of Israel somewhat loosely, especially in the first 24 chapters, where the context clearly shows that he was addressing the Jews in Jerusalem. Elsewhere, he clearly refers to the sister nation of the Jews, the House of Israel. God, through Ezekiel, warned them of impending destruction unless they repented and turned from their idolatrous and sinful practices. People were told in no uncertain terms that if they did not heed God's admonitions, they would be held responsible and suffer the consequences of their own actions. Predictions for happiness, peace, and abundance. Like all prophets, Ezekiel did not just bring a message of condemnation and sadness. Through him, God proclaimed that, after the Israelite people suffered humiliation and national deprivation due to their disobedience, he would return to usher in a time of unprecedented peace and harmony among all nations. As King of Kings and Lord of Lords, he will return to establish his righteous rule over the nations. Ezekiel's prophecies. To understand Ezekiel's prophecies, some historical context is necessary. From the time of Moses to King Solomon, about 5 centuries, Israel referred to 12 tribes that formed a nation. However, soon after Solomon's death, the nation split in 2. The northern 10 tribes continued to be called Israel, and the southern tribes, Judah, Benjamin, and part of Levi, were called Judah. These 2 nations, they resided in the land God gave them for more than 2 centuries as independent nations, until God finally punished the northern tribes with captivity for their continued disobedience. The 10 tribes that made up the nation of Israel were taken into slavery by Assyria, and from there these people migrated, becoming lost to historians over the centuries. To this day, they are known as the Lost Tribes of Israel. The remaining southern tribes, which formed the nation of Judah, continued for more than a century until their sins became so terrible that God also condemned them to captivity. This time, the conquering nation was Babylon, which deported them in several waves. Ezekiel's amazing prophecies. Before going in depth into Ezekiel's prophecies, I want to say that I will not explain their meaning now, as that would require hours of content. Many of these prophecies refer to literal and symbolic things, similar to the books of Daniel and Revelation. Little by little, I will bring videos explaining these subjects. Given the warning, let's proceed. First prophecy, chapters 4 to 7. In chapter 4, Ezekiel was to make a model of Jerusalem and attack it. He was then to lie on his left side for 390 days, representing 390 years of wickedness from the house of Israel. Afterwards he was to lie on his right side for 40 days, bearing the iniquity of the house of Judah. This day-in-a-year principle is found in several other prophecies. Chapter 5 contains one of the most severe prophecies in the Bible. The prophecy of the rosaries, where Ezekiel describes, with his hair shaved, how Jerusalem would be punished for its sins. 1/3 of Israel will perish from famine and pestilence, another third will die from military conquest, and the surviving third will be forced into servitude in foreign lands. This prophecy constitutes a warning about what will happen to the modern nations of Israel in the future. Chapter 6 repeats the judgments that come upon Israel with the additional phrase, "And you shall know that I am the Lord." Chapter 7 makes it clear that these prophecies against Jerusalem, Judah, and Israel are for the end time and include the period called the Day of the Lord's Wrath, which refers to the year before Christ returns and takes control of the world. Isaiah calls this time the Day of the Lord's Vengeance, the year of recompense. Second prophecy, chapters 8 to 19. In chapters 8 to 19, God makes accusations against Jerusalem and Israel. In chapter 8, there are references to pagan practices that were rooted in Christianity and practiced by many descendants of Israel. In chapter 9, God distinguishes between the ordinary citizens of Israel burdened by a tide of sin and those who revere God and his laws, being deeply grieved by the sins of the nation. The latter will have God's protection, while the former will suffer judgment. In chapter 10, Ezekiel sees a glimpse of the powerful spirit world and the cherubim, high-ranking angels. In chapter 11, we have an invasion of the temple. The fate of Jerusalem typifies the fate of national Israel in the days before the return of Jesus Christ, which may be called the Second Exodus. In chapter 12, Ezekiel describes both the ongoing deportation in his day and an end-time conquest. There are many prophecies with a double fulfillment. Third prophecy, chapters 20 to 23. Chapters 20 through 23 contain more accusations against Israel for breaking God's laws. The breaking of the Sabbath is highlighted in chapter 20 and repeated in chapter 22, verse 8. In Ezekiel's time, the Sabbath was sacred, being a sign of a people obedient to God. Fourth prophecy, chapters 24 to 25. In chapter 24, God allows Ezekiel's beloved wife to die, but he is not allowed to visibly cry. This was a sign that Israel would die on a terrible scale. In chapter 25, God warns the Gentile non-Israelite nations of the judgments that would come upon them. Firstly, there are the accusations against Ammon, Moab, Edom, and Philistia. Fifth prophecy, chapters 26 to 28. Chapters 26 to 28 are an indictment against Tyre. Within this prophecy, God shifts the focus to the real power behind corrupt Tyre, Satan. God describes how this once righteous cherub became greedy, violent, and arrogant. Chapter 28 ends with a preview of Israel's second exodus from slavery, leading to the transition to settlement in the Promised Land in the millennium. 6th to 11th prophecies, chapters 29 to 320. These chapters are mainly judgments focusing on Egypt, although Babylon is also mentioned. In the first part of chapter 33, God makes it clear that he is referring to the role of the watchman for the children of Israel, whose responsibility is to warn of evil. These watchmen are individuals like Ezekiel who are commissioned to proclaim God's warning. 12th prophecy, chapters 3:21 to 39. These chapters contain a combination of judgment, forgiveness, restoration, and redemption for Israel. Chapter 34 portrays God as the great shepherd of Israel. In chapter 36, God promises a time of rebirth for Israel, symbolized by a new nature. Chapter 37 describes the return of Israel's dry bones, one of the most well-known visions in the Bible. This chapter also presents the gathering of the scattered Israelites. In chapters 38 and 39, we have the Battle of Gog and Magog, which many scholars believe occurred shortly before or after Christ's return. 13th prophecy, chapters 40 to 48. These final chapters describe a new structure for the temple and its rededication in the millennium. The river of living water in chapter 47 is a powerful prediction of the Holy Spirit being given to people in the kingdom. Like the content, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. May God bless you all.